welcome to this webinar. I'm Dr. Sheila Ross, psychologist and psychotherapist, founder of the Sorted app and CEO of Positive Rewards, the company that produces it. So I'm delighted to be here today to tell you about burnout and resilience and how our app can help. So next slide, please. Take a moment as we start just to tune into yourself and think to yourself, how do you feel? Don't need to put it in the chat, just tune into yourself. How do you feel right now at work? So as we tune into ourselves and how we're feeling at work, and let's hope that you're having a day where you're not feeling overwhelmed. You can see all these different feelings that can come up. These are obviously our negative feelings, our less positive ones that will impact how we respond to work, how we manage our work, also our home life. So things like feeling emotionally drained, maybe feeling guilty because you're not pulling your weight, you're letting your colleagues down, maybe feeling apathetic, can't be bothered, or lack of creativity, lack of concentration, maybe feeling as low as feeling depressed. All sorts of problems and emotional challenges come with burnout. And next slide, please. And burnout is clearly a big problem in the workplace because it's even increasing now. When we feel burnt out, we tend to have lack concentration, so we have what's called absenteeism. Even although we're in work, we're not actually functioning very well because we often find it hard to know where to focus first, distracted by many internal thoughts. This is very costly for the workplace in terms of lack of performance, but also in terms of days off, more likely to take days off. Next slide, please. And also, we're less likely to stay in the workplace. And we wanted people to stay in the workplace, well, presuming it's a job that you like, but it's costly to train people up. And sometimes with the right resources, we can help people enjoy their work even more and find the right fit. So next slide, please. So what can we do about this? How can we help people not get burnt out and actually feel better in their work, feel better in their everyday lives? So resilience is the corroboree of that. And so who do you think is resilient? Well, very often people will say people like Nelson Mandela because of his struggles in South Africa. They might say Rosa Parks because of her ability to keep fighting on against racism. But very often athletes come forward as being resilient because athletes really, their performance is measured in time. So it can be the smallest sort of nanosecond that stops them being a winner, and yet they're able to bounce back and keep going and feel they're giving their personal best. So next slide, please. This is Lizzie Arnold, and Lizzie Arnold is a great example of a resilient athlete. She has won 2 gold medal winners, and we'll be coming back to her because one of the things that she does is visualization. And she talks, when we interviewed her, she talked about how she used visualization to help her train. And we'll be talking about the importance for that us in our everyday lives. Lizzie started off in high jump, and then she found that as she was talking to her coach, she was explaining her method to get over the bar. And so she was using a lot of visualization then. And then when she was in the Winter Olympics, she was doing what's called the skeleton. And you were only allowed to go down at once because it was too dangerous. So she had to practice with visualizing. And many, many athletes will do that. And you'll see that too with rugby players about to take a hit. They'll focus their mind and visualize the ball. It's a very, very common technique that really makes a big difference. Next slide, please. So what does research tell us about resilience? How do you become resilient? This is a picture of the Twin Towers in 2011. I mean, 9/11. Sorry. Next slide, please. And at that time, there was a researcher called Barbara Fredrickson who was doing a research in resilience. And actually, so she was able to measure before and after this event, which had a huge impact across the world, but particularly for people in New York and in America. And what she found was what helped people feel better and less depressed after the event was the amount of positive emotions they had. So that emotions like joy, hope, pride, awe is a particularly strong emotion positive emotion to have. So positive emotions were found to mediate the experience between resilience and depression. Next slide, please. And resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity. And actually, some would say bounce forward. So the more resilience we have, it's like a spiral, a sort of thriving spiral that we can sort of, it will push us on an upward spiral of being even more resilient, more able to cope, more able to deal with situations. And resilience is correlated with increased well-being, not a surprise, absence of depression, because depression is absence of positive emotions. So, and resilience is having lots of positive emotions. And as I said, resilience builds resilience. So resilience is what we need in the workplace. It will help us have more satisfaction. It'll help us be more present, more able to focus, because positive emotions not only help us be more resilient, they actually help us be much more creative as well. So we're able to problem solve much better. We're able to think out of the box. And we're able to contribute to a team. We're able to communicate better. We're able to see the positivities in things, because when we have negative emotion, we tend to look for things in our environment which we can attribute the negative emotions to. So you might say, well, I'm feeling very bad because of this or that, which may be because of the way, this person spoke to me, or if we see an email, oh, I don't want to open this email because I think it's going to have bad news. So how we react to people does depend on how we're feeling ourselves and how we interpret that. We will interpret someone's face more negatively if we ourselves are feeling bad. Next slide, please. So, positive emotions, where do they come from and how can we increase them? This is the real key, because it's easy to say, oh, we should all be feeling positive, but actually it's not always quite that straightforward. And can we increase them? Next slide, please. So the good news is, yes, we can. So if we think about our mental health on a continuum like that, we've got a happy and sad face there. So you've got depression, anxiety, burnout at one end, and then we've got peak performance and resilience at the other end. So we're all on that continuum sometimes, always, right? And sometimes we're moving up a bit, and sometimes we're moving down a bit. So the things that draw us down to the depression, anxiety, performing less well, are our negative triggers and our negative self-beliefs, our limiting self-beliefs. And sometimes these are called ACEs. Now, ACEs is adverse childhood experiences. Big study in America found out that 1 in 10 people has at least one. And if you have more than 4 of these adverse childhood experiences, then you're much more likely to have mental health challenges. So they're very, very common, and they were classified in the study as things like having alcoholic parents or drug user parents, having any sort of abuse, physical, emotional, or sexual, having a parent in prison. These sorts of aspects can have a negative effect, can have something in your background which can resonate with the present and future, and so make you feel less optimistic about yourself and about your present. So these are the factors that push us down towards the left-hand side of that continuum. And as I said, it's not necessarily just adverse childhood experiences, it can be adverse adult experiences too, because adverse events, but it is thought that events that happen in your childhood can often be more impactful than later on events. But again, it depends on the event, of course. But the good news is that we know that certain things will help us overcome adverse experiences and help us move towards peak performance. And these are positive rescripting, positive priming. Rescripting is now what people tend to call reappraising, and that's like if you go for a job and you don't get the job, you know, you go down the pub, you talk to someone and you say, "Oh, I didn't get the job," or "I feel awful, I'm an absolute loser." You know, your friend will say, "Oh, but you know, it was great that you had the chance to be interviewed. Just think, you know, it's all that interview practice, you did really well. You know, maybe what's for you won't go by you," sort of thing. All of that is reappraisal, or what we call rescripting. So it's seeing things in a different way. And what really helps that is our ability to access positive emotions. And where do we access positive emotions? These come from our memories. And that's why sort of our memories are super important, and particularly our childhood memories. So it's not just any memory, it's not memories of sort of feeling good, you know. It is memories that have attributes of autonomy, that's a sense of agency, being in control, relatedness, that's about how you're getting on with people, and competency, that's skill. These are all what is Ryan and Decky's self-determination theory, and these are what underpin well-being, and they are universal, cross-cultural, cross-national. These are the aspects that actually make us human, and they underpin our sense of purpose and meaning, which again is absolutely key to our sense of happiness and contentment in our lives. So, but our memories allow us to connect with these feelings. And when we connect with these feelings of autonomy, relatedness, competency in memories, we are then able to feel better about ourselves and to move forward to our sense of self-actualization, you know, peak performance. Next slide, please. So Olympic sports people are very able to be resilient, as I was saying, as I was talking about Lizzie. And how do they do it? As I said, they talk a lot about visualization. Now, visualization does depend on your memories, because how can we visualize something that we can't even imagine? So we have to visualize success. We have to draw on our experiences of success in the past. Maybe it's transferred to a new area, but we are drawing on our knowledge of the world and our understanding of it and our own experience to be able to visualize. But we can actually, through mental training, we can actually increase our senses of visualization, and our sense of what's key is our sense of self-belief in that visualization. And athletes are very good at that, and that's what their mental preparation is all about. So they're able to let go of negative past experiences. They're able to let go of perhaps an accident, of missing that putt when they were golfing. They're able to sort of just focus on the present and perform. And that's what we need to do, because our everyday lives are sort of a performance. When we're at work, we're a certain way. When we're at home, we've got all these different roles. And when we're depressed, we know that what really helps people recover is that sense of belief that they're going to recover, and that sense of expectation. And some of you might have heard about the placebo effect. Placebo effect is a belief that something is helping. So it is that, again, that sense of being able to see yourself in the future as that recovered person, as that person who's doing better. So it's exactly the same skill set that we need, that they use in sports, that we use in our everyday lives. We don't need to be athletes to use these skills that athletes use. Next slide, please. So positive emotions, where do they come from? Well, they come from the body and the brain. The body is super important. Our body reacts before our cognitive mind. You know, so when we, for example, if we hear a loud noise, our body has already got us ready to fight or flight, run, fight or flight, or freeze, you know, ready to move. And then our mind might go, it's just a car backfiring. There's no danger. So we're hardwired to respond emotionally first before our cognitive mind comes in. And often our cognitive mind is trying to make sense of what our body is telling us. Because we've got lots of, our vagus nerve goes from our gut up to our brain. It's taking signals from our body to our brain, and that's what we're interpreting. There's lots of signals from the brain to the body too, but the ones from the brain to from the body to the brain are those that are sort of pre-conscious emotions that determine how we are feeling and therefore what we're thinking and how we're reacting. So our emotional state is very, very important and is based on our body. So we're able to help this with relaxation, and that's why we've got relaxation embedded into our app, which I'm going to be talking about. It increases our feelings of safety, and it also increases our sense of oxygen and nutrients in the body. And we can do exercises to do that. The thing that is under our conscious control is our breathing. So if we're feeling very anxious, we might notice our heart is beating fast. Now we can't just say to ourselves, slow down heart, but we can slow our heart down by deep breathing and using our diaphragm, which is the muscles that expand when we did breathing deeply, and they send relaxation messages to our brain. And our brain has got sympathetic, which is sympathetic system in our brain is our fight or flight system, and our parasympathetic is our rest and relax. And they're an oppositional inhibition in the brain. So when we boost our rest and relax, we naturally depress and lower our stress response. So next slide, please. So I thought we could try a little bit of this now, just for you to get a sense of how powerful it is. So I want you just to start by taking in a deep breath and just holding your breath. Feel the tension as you're holding your breath. Hold it for a moment and now breathe out. As you breathe out, sort of draw on your stomach to help you empty your lungs. So when you breathe in, you can expand your stomach. You're pushing it out. And as you breathe out, it falls back in. And then begin to count yourself. So breathe in to a count of 3 and pause, and breathe out to a count of 3 and pause for a second. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out, 2, 3, 4. And just notice your shoulders. Perhaps they're up around your ears, and just notice how they're more relaxed. Notice your arms, your hands, your back, the chair you're sitting on, letting your legs relax all the way down to your toes, feeling more comfortable. Check in with your breathing again. It's found a natural, slower rhythm. And just notice your mind. Slightly quieter, perhaps you're feeling slightly more able just to observe your thoughts passing by. Not engaged with them, but you become an observer within yourself. And this is letting your mind and body reset. You might like to finish with a picture of yourself after this webinar. getting on with the rest of your day, smiling, feeling happier, carrying some of this calm, good feeling into the rest of the day. So that can, I haven't got a timer, but that can only have been about 2 minutes of relaxation. Super, super impactful for helping yourself reset. And it can be done anywhere. It's a skill, but sometimes we don't even notice that we're tense or that we're holding our breath. Okay, next slide, please. So I've got a short animation here. This explains our research that we did with the Canadian University on our program, Positive Mental Training, which is in the Sorted app. And it's 3 minutes and it unpacks lots of information that we'll unpack a little bit after. So if you, next slide and play it, please.
Olympic athletes are very good at bouncing back and feeling good after losing a race. So what can we learn from them to help us in our own lives to overcome stress and depression? We know that one of the main influences on our mood in any situation is a related memory. We also know that distressing memories can upset our mood and concentration. To protect us from this, sometimes our brains put up a firewall. But here's the thing. Although the intention is good, the outcome may not be helpful, as over time, many environmental cues, acting out with our conscious awareness, will link us to the firewalled memory, so we get the feeling but not the memory. This activates the control center of our right brain fight or flight sympathetic nervous system. Our body responds with racing heart and tense muscles, telling our brain something is wrong, but not what it is. The brain in turn tells the body to be alert for danger. We become wary and withdrawn, and bingo, we're trapped in a vicious cycle. We feel bad without knowing why. The good news is that we can use the body to break this vicious cycle, using relaxation techniques and slowing the breathing. This activates our left brain relax and relate parasympathetic system, which automatically switches off our fight or flight system. This body switch results in a positive mindset, where it's easier to find positive memories and create positive visualizations. This mindset also acts as a safety net, allowing us to change the disabling effect of distressing memories. You see, every distressing memory activates a network of related memories, and the first 3 of these are key to our resilience. How we react comes down to simple mathematics. If 2 of them are negative, then the distressing memory is firewalled. If 2 of these 3 are positive, then the network acts as a coping resource, and the memory will not need firewalled. Our research has shown that with a simple audio track, it's possible to change one negative network memory to become positive. This can allow us to safely remove the firewall, come to terms with the distressing memory, and move on. We think that Olympic athletes naturally link to positive coping memories. This is how they bounce back from defeat. This is the nub of resilience. We have worked in the NHS with anxious and depressed people and have observed their recovery when using the body switch combined with positive future visualizations of self. But all of us, including anxious and depressed people, can practice and develop this ability. By working with the body and the mind, we can embrace the possibility of change and growth and become champions in our own lives. We have called this positive mental training.
Okay, so if you have a look at this picture, okay, we started off at the right, and it's about athletes. So we know that memories affect our present feelings. And sometimes they're memories which we say are firewalled. In other words, we don't want to remember it because it's got horrible associations. So we just sort of block it. And that's a very helpful strategy to help us deal with our lives at that time. But what can happen later on in life is that it becomes a bit of a block and we need to unblock it. And sometimes we just know things will trigger us to that memory, but we won't know what. So what we can do, the center picture there, is we can cut off or boost our parasympathetic with the breathing and the relaxation, and cut off our stress response. And that lets us, as we get into this default mindset space of relaxation, we're able to connect to positive memories. And what these Canadian researchers found is that 3 memories are the key. So any event, negative event, will have around it 3 key memories. So if you go to the next slide, please. Okay, so the 3 key memories, they are so these are all scored on autonomy, competency, and relatedness, like we talked about before. And if the score of those 3 attributes is positive, then that memory is a coping resource. But if they're negative, that memory is no longer a coping resource, and we will have a sense of, we will feel bad about that memory still. So if you go to the next one with the lady on the man on the sofa, and the next one, this one. So for example, the guy at the sofa is listening to a piece of music. Now, if he's feeling, oh, that's a horrible bit of music, you know, it really makes me feel really bad and uncomfortable. Maybe that's because, here's 3 key memories underneath. He was working at the time for a company where he was very unhappy. And Susie, his girlfriend, had just dumped him. And he kept going around to see Aunt Mabel, who gave him cherry pie, which he hated. So there he's got 3 negative memories. But if, hey, say, Susie actually came into his life at that point, and he absolutely loved the cherry pie that he got, then he's got 2 memories there that are positive and 1 negative. So then if it's a positive, if the balance of the 3 memories is positive, then the association with that music will be very positive. So the memories are key, and what we found in our research is that we can change, with listening to one of the tracks from the Sorted app, you can change a negative memory to a positive memory. So that will change the balance to be overall positive, and people with that, they had more positive feelings, and they had more feelings of feeling more positive about themselves and greater feelings of resilience. So next slide, please. So it's quite possible to do things for that. And so we've got this opportunity here for you to trial our Sorted app in your workplace to see how it gets on for you. And we're looking for 10 companies who will be given the resources of the app and all our supporting materials like staff, training for key workers, HR or first aiders, so they can signpost or just answer questions. And you'll get an organizational code to give to your employees, and we just ask for that employees will fill out a questionnaire pre and post the 6 weeks. The app is completely anonymous. These questionnaires will have emails, but they will be held by us, Positive Rewards, with GDPR consent and everything, and will not be passed on to your employers, so that any feedback will be anonymized. So you can be rest assured about that. It's a great opportunity because this app started in the health service for patients. The co-founder, Alistair Dobbin, was working as a GP, and he wanted something for his patients who were depressed and anxious. And I was bringing in my self-promotion skills, and we decided to have this self-help program for them, adapted from the sports program. And we would have training sessions where we would tell doctors and nurses and physios and OTs about this program. And we'd invite them back 6 weeks later to see how they're getting on, any questions from their patients. And what we found out was they were all using it for their own well-being as well. And we know from studies that it helps them have better well-being, better job satisfaction. So that's why we started working in employee health. Within the pandemic, this program was used across all of Scotland for all of NHS health and social care workers. And then now we work in universities with staff and with students. Same approach, is sort of whole well-being approach. And it's something for everyone. So sometimes it's a resource that you can have that you might not need at the moment, but it might be helpful for when you need it later. Can I have the next slide, please? The benefits of using these audio resources in the app are that it can help you sleep because it's so embedded with relaxation. It very, very quickly helps people sleep. And sleep is often one of the very first things that you notice when your mental health is beginning to worsen. You've got stresses in your life that are stopping you sleep. And of course, then it's a vicious circle because if you don't sleep, you can't really deal very well with all the stresses. So it's very helpful to have something that can really break across that. And you can see from the small amount of relaxation that we did, when you focus on your body and relax and your breathing, it can really help. I think that's what counting sheep's all about. It's, every breath, it's like counting one sheep jumping over. So it can help you let go of worries, lifts your mood, which can help you cope better, have more motivation, make better decisions, see things in perspective. Next slide, please. So in the workplace specifically, it can help you feel more confident, put across your ideas, you get a greater sense of your own sense of self-worth, that you're able to express your ideas better, more able to speak out, you're more creative, you're more responsive, and people find that they can reorganize their day better, they're not taking worries home, better, more relaxed at home with their kids. So it's these are some of the benefits. Interesting enough, when we look at our app data, most people listen to the app a Sunday night between about 10 and 2 o'clock in the morning, which I think just shows that they're preparing for the workplace. It's also used for shift workers, very helpful in the day to help shift workers get to sleep, which can be challenging. Next slide, please. So it's a combination of the sports psychology, positive psychology, relaxation, rescripting. So it's not mindfulness because it's much, much more guided. The relaxation is much more guided. It's not traditional CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which for those of you who know it is about thinking about your thoughts, recognizing your negative thoughts. For example, I haven't noticed, this person hasn't phoned me. Oh, it's because they don't like me. That's a negative thought. You would challenge that and say, well, why do you think that? How do you know that's true? And so you challenge your negative thoughts. So CBT is the triangle of thoughts, cognitions, emotions, and behavior. So we still work within those because those three things are all linked. But we tend to focus on the emotions, and we look at positive skills and skill sets and building on people's skills. And in that way, the negative thoughts will take care of themselves. They'll be depressed. You'll feel more positive. You'll find ways of looking at things more differently. Next slide, please. So we've seen how visualization, memories impact, and this is where Sorted comes in. It will help us find more positive memories. It will help us visualize because it comes from sports performance. Some of the tracks are very keenly, see yourself in the future doing this even better, right? And you'll pull on your past experiences to build on that. And then that builds positive emotions, and that will build good performance, particularly social performance. Social performance is really what's key for us, for our emotional balance. Next slide, please. We started off with these audio tracks 15 years ago as CDs, and then we moved to MP3s, and then it's moved into an app. So it's got a lot of experience behind it. We know it works, and we know it's very, very safe. If you don't like it, you'll just stop listening. But the key track program in the app is Feeling Good for Life, and it is what we call positive mental training. And the idea is that you listen to, there's 12 tracks, you listen to one track every day for a week, and then you move on to the next track every day for a week. So this is why we call it mental training, because as you listen to that same track over again over several days, you're training your mind to learn the skills. So you're training your mind how to recognize tense and release and relax muscles. So in the same way, if we want to get physically fit, we go to the gym and we do the same exercises over and over again. So to get mentally fit, because that's what it's about mental flexibility, so we can spring back. Because we will all have challenges, we will all have knockbacks, we'll all have sadness. Negative emotions are part of our lives, but what we need to know is how to respond and how to get over and feel more positive. So this repeated practicing of these skills help us do that and help us connect to the positives within us, which again, we all have. We all have inherent resilience. We all learn to walk as children, as babies. You watch a baby learning to walk, fall down, get up, fall down, get up, fall down, get up, you know, and we all did that. So we all know how to be resilient. We have to remind ourselves and learn the new skills and the new things, new ways of being for us as adults. And so the four tracks build this deep relaxation to get the state of neutrality and homeostasis in our nervous system. And then there are later tracks that build our self-confidence, build our self-esteem, build our ability to see a positive future, to connect with positive past. So all of these life skills that we need on an everyday basis. And sometimes we need them more than others. But once, a bit like learning to ride a bike, once you've learned these, you don't forget it. Sometimes you just need a little reminder. So some of our research, this is a burnout inventory. Burnout can be measured as having these three attributes: cynicism, exhaustion, and personal efficacy. So cynicism is the yellow one. No, the yellow one is exhaustion. The purple one is cynicism. And you can see them going down significantly over 6 months. And the green one is personal efficacy, which is how good we feel we are at doing our job and the sense of satisfaction we get from it. And we can see that's increasing. So that's really good to see, because this actually is quite a hard scale to shift. Next slide, please. We also know it has sorted out, it's very impactful on mood. This is depression and anxiety, going down again significantly over 6 months. The blue one is anxiety, the red one is depression. We actually know, now these two aspects, depression and anxiety, are measured in the app, and we know that actually at 2 weeks, people's anxiety has dropped hugely, and their depression as well, and continues to drop by 7 weeks. So it's very, very fast, actually. Next slide. And we also have evidence that it increases well-being. It's helpful for rehabilitation after a stroke, for giving you vitality as well, because actually when we tense, it uses a lot of energy in our body. So when we're able to let go of that, we get so much more vitality. And we sleep better. So it's helpful for any condition that has anxiety associated with it. And let's face it, most of our health concerns are a concern because they make us anxious. So it's really helpful for us to be able to recognize that and to let go of that anxiety when we don't need it. Next slide. And there we think that what's happening in the brain is, as we do the repeated listening, we're able to form new neural connections in the brain. You know, it used to be thought that as you grow older, your brain cells just died. And the more alcohol you drank, the quicker they died, and the more cigarettes and everything. But actually it's found out we continue making new brain cells all the way through our lives. So neuroplasticity is about the ability we have to change our connections. So we might have a default way of being in a particular way, but we can change that by practicing, and then we make new pathways. It's like finding a new shortcut to something. And when we visualize, it's like creating a memory for the future. Visualization is akin to having practiced something in the past. It's very, very effective. Next slide, please. We really like the fact that the app is audio because it's so much easier to relate to. It makes it much more inclusive and accessible. One of the first things that happens to go if we are depressed or anxious, burnt out, is our ability to concentrate. And people talk about losing their sort of key coping skills, like maybe it was reading and they're no longer able to read. If you're very anxious, you can't even watch a television program. So having something that can guide you and into a state of calm is very helpful. Also very helpful for neurodiversity, ADHD. You can feel very overwhelmed very, very quickly. And instead of having to sort of take time out, you can actually just go home. You can tune in and to this, listen audio and reset your mind body much more easily. The audios are downloaded as you listen, so you can listen offline, which is very helpful. You will, for those who are joining in the pilot, you'll get free access for 6 weeks. Then once you fill in the 6-week questionnaire, you will get free lifelong access. And I said, that's a little picture of where you put in the organizational code. Next slide, please. Super easy to use the app. 92% said they'd recommend it to a friend. Next slide, please. So again, if you're interested, just please contact the latest group and we'll get you all set up. And I really look forward to working with some of you. If you've got any questions, love to answer questions. Please, now or later, just go for it. So that's the end of the webinar. I've given you lots of information, so I hope you enjoyed it and found it very interesting. You know, when you think about lockdown, what was so stressful about lockdown, all of those three attributes that I talked about, autonomy, competency, and relatedness, they were all challenged in lockdown. We all had our autonomy taken away because we were told what to do. We couldn't even go out sometimes. Our relatedness was challenged because we weren't allowed even to hug people, never mind meet them, you know. And competency, we all suddenly had to sort of adopt new skills like how to cough and sneeze into our sleeve, wear masks all the time, learn all these new digital skills. So there was a lot going on, which explains why lockdown was so challenging for so many of us. So are there any questions?
Sonia's asked, how do you help someone that doesn't want to be helped?
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting question because, yes, people have to want to be helped. I think the key to that, Sonia, is to find out what aspect of their life is challenging. So a really good way in, I think, is sleep, because somehow it feels less threatening to say to someone, I'm really not sleeping very well. Whereas to say, well, I'm feeling a bit anxious, feeling a bit depressed, that's harder to say. So maybe something like, how are you sleeping? That might be a way. Or to do something with that person. Maybe go for a walk in an environment where it's easier to speak. Sometimes it's easier to speak when you're doing something else, rather than sort of sitting face to face. I don't know if that's helpful, but ultimately, people are responsible for their own mental health, and sometimes we just have to let them find their own way.
Jen Wood has asked, I'd love to ask about visualisation as I don't have a mind's eye, ADHD, and many of my clients are the same. How does the app work for us?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Some people really can't visualize. Other people find it a bit more challenging. I think if you sort of shut your eyes and think, can you picture your front door? then that's a sort of enough of visualization. And you can sort of increase that. But the key thing about visualization, particularly, is the feeling. You know, one of the tracks in the app is what we call your inner safe place, where we ask you to visualize a place, inside, outside. But really what's important is the feeling. You know, how do you feel? You feel a sense of safety and security in yourself. So if visualizing isn't working for you, if you find it challenging, don't worry about that. Just, you know, use your other ways to see yourself, to imagine yourself, or self-talk for doing things in the future. If it's like at the end of the self-confidence track, it says, take yourself into something in the future and see yourself doing it even better. So you can imagine that. Create it in a more cognitive way than a sort of visual way. I hope that's helpful. Yeah.
From a HR manager's perspective, if they think that an employee is displaying signs of burnout, what may that look like, and how do they help them?
Okay. I think if somebody's struggling to complete tasks, if they're looking like they you know, can't concentrate, if they're finding it hard to communicate very well, to sort out tasks, if they're sort of just staring at their screen, maybe a bit tearful, uncommunicative, coming in late, or alternatively not wanting to go home, you know, just slightly withdrawn behavior, not meeting your eyes in conversation, then you would have a conversation on how are you feeling, you know, is there anything I can do to help you, you know, manage your workload just now, help you sort it out, or you could talk about sleeping. One of the ways of introducing something like the app could be, well, there was someone who had a problem, who was experiencing what you're experiencing, and they found this helpful. I know another colleague did. So sometimes that can be a helpful way to say someone like you found, or just try it. Horses for courses, give it a go. Sometimes when people take it, download it, they might not use it for a while, but then they might go back to it. But if the thing about the Sorted app is, one, it's anonymous, which is great, but two, it's from sports, it's sports performance. Who doesn't want to have these skills that can actually help them perform better, you know?
Someone's just said that they've downloaded the app already and they're looking forward to trying it out. Is it available for individual users?
Yes, it is. Yes. But if your organisation signs up, you can get it for free. But yeah, you can just get it on the App Store. Yeah.
Lovely. Okay. Do you want to ask if there's any more questions?
Any more questions? You can always email in, you know, if you've got more questions, myself or the latest group. Either way, you know, I'm very happy to give you questions, answer questions.
Lovely. I think everyone's asked everything. So if you want to sign off, just to reiterate again about what you're looking for the pilot trial before we leave, and then people know to email marketing if the organisation wants to take that.
Okay, so thank you so much for listening in, and I hope you found that helpful and learned a couple of facts perhaps. So just to say that, please, 10 companies, pilot this app, free of charge. Doesn't really require any work from you guys. We'll just give you the resources you need to give out to your employees, and then we'll just ask them the minimal light touch, short questionnaires, and they just listen. Each listening maybe 15 minutes every day. You don't actually need to listen to every day. That's the ideal. And it really depends on what you want to achieve, how much you listen. People very quickly get a sense of, well, I only need to listen to this for, you know, a week, or maybe actually I need to listen to this every day, or, you know, it's very much guided by the individual. I'm a great believer in people know what helps them and know how much they need to use it. So contact marketing at latestgroup.co.uk, or any questions about the app or anything else, you can contact me through our website, sortedmentalhealth.app. So thank you. Thanks very much.